Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. We are delighted to have you here today. Our webinar with Discover Economics for careers advisors across the UK. We are absolutely delighted to have you here. My name is Sam McLaughlin, and I'm from Discover Economics at the Royal Economic Society. And today we have a 1-hour event aimed at careers advisors, careers leaders at schools across the UK, but I know that we've probably got people joining from further afield. So if you are happy to do so, please get involved in the chat box. Maybe say which school you're from. We'd love to know if your school does economics at any level, whether that's GCSE or A level, or if you're from Scotland, whether it's at Highers or S3. So please do tell us who you are. It's really nice to get to know people on the call in absence of being in a room all together. Before I start, I will like to introduce the great panelists that we have on this event today. So first of all, we have Dimitra from LSE. We have Tandai from the Bank of England. And we're delighted to have an A-level student joining us, Daniel, as well. He's out of lessons, especially for this, and he's got his Christmas jumper on as well, which I absolutely love because it is National Christmas Jumper Day, so very good on that front. But yes, what I'll do now, though, before we start, I'm just going to bring up a little poll as well, and I'd love for you to share your thoughts on this poll before we dig into the actual event itself. So I will just bring this one up now. And yes, please put down your answers to this poll. We'd love to know, what's your role within a school, if you work within a school, or some of you might work maybe for local authorities as a careers advisor. Is economics provided at the school that you work at or the school that you're linked to? And how confident do you feel if a young person is to knock on your door and say, "Sir, Miss, I'm interested in economics, tell me more"? Hopefully, by the end of this event, you'll feel super, super confident and, upskilled with loads of ideas as to what you can say to those young people. That's what we're all about here today. Brilliant. So thank you very much for people submitting. Just wait for our last couple. Super. So share those results there. Everyone can see. So we've got a nice mixture of people. So we've got some careers leaders, careers advisors, some teachers, other school staff members. We see that, some of you have got economics in your school at the moment, some haven't. But in terms of the confidence levels, probably sitting on the fence at this stage, a lot around that moderate level, maybe know a bit, but keen to know more. So yes, absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much for giving those insights. And yeah, anyone that has any kind of thoughts or questions along the way today, do please put those in the chat box. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to share my screen. And yes, tell you a little bit more. So, as mentioned, I'm Sam McLaughlin, and I'm the campaign manager at Discover Economics. What is Discover Economics, though, for those of you who aren't familiar with our campaign? So Discover Economics is a campaign with 3 aims. Relatively new campaign, launched just before the pandemic started. But our 3 aims. Number 1, we want to broaden the appeal of economics to potential students. We want to change their perceptions of the subject of economics, but also those that study it and those that work in the field. And we want to attract more students from underrepresented groups. So that might be females, it might be young people at state schools or certain ethnic minorities. So that's what we're trying to achieve here at Discover Economics. Now, why are we trying to do this? Well, there is a problem in our subject. Some of you may be aware, some of you may be not. But if we look at the graphic on the left-hand side, we see that 1 in 6 boys takes A-level economics. Compare that to the girls, it's only 1 in 17 girls. So there's a huge issue there with gender. We know that state schools are underrepresented, and we know that Black students are underrepresented at undergraduate level. Fewer than 30% of economics undergraduates are females. The lack of diversity amongst economics students is a problem for the wider society, because economic graduates can go on to roles within government, and they're then having to make decisions that shape the society. So we need to make sure they reflect the society they're trying to shape. So a year ago, UCAS did a report that was titled "Where Next and What Influences the Choices School Leavers Make." So this report did a lot of surveying with young people to see, when did they make decisions about what they were going to study. And you can see on the little graphic on the left-hand side that at GCSE age, who was making decisions about what they studied at university and had a firm idea at GCSE stage. At that stage, we can see lots of people who were maybe interested in medicine, teaching, nursing, drama, and computer science, had a firm idea at GCSE level that that was their pathway. However, economics is at the other end of the scale. This seems to be a later decision for people that choose economics at undergraduate level, with only 20% of undergraduates having that firm idea at GCSE stage. So from this report, UCAS made a call that there needs to be more targeted outreach work within your schools to broaden the awareness of your students and the pathways in our field. We need more access to economics. We know that not every school has an A-level economics option at their schools or sixth forms. We'd love for more to have that. But again, there's a huge issue with the supply of economics teachers. But every school does have a careers leader and a careers advisor like you today. So that's why we're doing events like this, to make sure you have the knowledge to help spread the word in your school. And as a result of this, we at Discover Economics are delighted that we have some fully funded workshops for your schools and your students to benefit. So after this event, we would love for you to get in touch, as we have 1-hour workshops that can be linked to a variety of subjects. So if you don't have economics in your school, we can link workshops to maths curriculum, business studies, geography, PSHE, and have it all linked to the Gatsby benchmarks. These workshops will be delivered by current undergraduate economics students from a university close to you. So we have over 30 universities around all home nations involved in this project. And then we can have young, relatable role models come into your school and deliver these workshops. They last about an hour in length, and obviously adapt to make sure it fits with your timetable. And once in the school, rather than delivering just to one class, we'd love to deliver to as many as possible in that one visit. So if it's year 10s, we'd love to have a carousel and work with all the maths students in year 10 in a day if possible, to give them all a great insight into economics, but also to see what are their thoughts, what are their perceptions of economics, what can we learn from them, but hopefully open their eyes so they can create positive change in the future. So if you are interested in having any of those workshops in your school, there's some contact details at the bottom there. So please do send us an email, and we'd love to set that up with your local university. Otherwise, though, we have a website with loads of resources, events listed. We've got a podcast, and I know our guest at the Bank of England will be highlighting that later, because we've got a special episode out today. We're on social media in all the usual places. So there's content for you as a school staff member, but also lots of content for your young people. So please do follow us on those channels and do get engaged so we can keep this conversation going. Super. So that's my introduction. You've learned a little bit about why we're here today, what Discover Economics is. But now I'm going to hand over to our first guest today. So I'd love to hand over to Dimitra from LSE, who will give you an insight into economics at university. What is it like? So over to you, Dimitra.
Thanks, Sam. Just one thing to point out, our visitors, our guests are commenting that the chat box is disabled. And I don't know if that's intentional because we want colleagues to post questions, but it looks as if it, some of them are asking if they could access the chat. So I'll get onto that one. Thanks, Dimitra. We'll sort that one out. All right. So welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to be speaking to you today. This is a topic very close to my heart. We're at LSE, we're really investing heavily in sort of disseminating information around our discipline and sort of giving, schools and pupils sort of a better understanding of what it's about. So I'm the undergraduate program director at LSE. I've been in this role for quite a few years. So, obviously undergraduate admissions and the design of our program is a big deal. But I've worked in other universities before. I've worked in Oxford, in Sussex, in Surrey. So I think I have a sort of fairly reasonable overview of the sort of educational pathway in economics as a whole. And I wanted to give you a few insights around that, particularly to those of you who might not have A-level or GCSE economics, and as a result, maybe students have less of a sense of what it is. So maybe I sort of wanted to start with, why might someone be interested in economics? What does it actually do? So there's a lot of misconceptions around what economics actually is. I'm going to get to that a little bit more in a minute. So a lot of people, if you ask them what is economics about, they might say it's about money, it's about banks, it's about finance or something. But really what economics is about understanding how the world around us works, and in particular, social issues and social problems, what works well in the economy and in society and what works less well, trying to understand the causes of that. And then as a result, how do we fix social issues that interest us, such as climate change, economic inequality, the fact that some regions of the world are persistently poor and are not getting richer, while other parts of the world are getting richer. Why do some countries not get richer and others do? So I think most people know that things like monetary and fiscal policy, that sounds very economicsy, but there are lots of things that are economics that people don't think are economics, such as the effect of social media on society. Just this morning, I was speaking with a colleague who's designing an economics course, and one of the topics is how the rise of social media affects how people think about the world and how that affects sort of election outcomes, and in turn, how that might affect society. Other things like the obesity epidemic, how could economics come into sort of policies around that? So many issues that are economics that, students don't think are economics. And I think that's one of the issues. So economics is incredibly versatile. It's, I think, highly relevant to lots of things we care about. And I think a success would be to try and get school pupils to understand that actually the things that they worry about in the world, economics helps you tackle some of those or make some progress to tackle some of those. I guess the other thing is that the way economics is taught at university is quite different to the A-level anyway. So whether you have A-level economics or not, university economics is quite different. Why is that? It's because it's typically very mathematical, because economics has two dimensions. One of it is the theory side, which is around building models of how the economy works, how people interact in the economy, and that involves mathematics. And the point of that very abstract kind of modeling is to kind of generate some predictions or conclusions or hypotheses, which we can then look at the data to see if they map out in reality, right? Do we have evidence that supports the hypotheses we raised? So there's a lot of interplay between sort of the theory side of economics that requires a lot of maths, and then kind of the evidence side of economics, which is around analyzing data. And to analyze data, you need some statistical tools. So there's the statistics side as well. And then, of course, maybe some data analytical tools, maybe some coding, maybe things like that. So in order for students to be comfortable with economics at university and actually to love it, sometimes that goes hand in hand with enjoying maths at school. But not just that, if students are doing sort of geography or business or things like that, there'll be elements that relate to economics. But I think if a student doesn't like describing the world with equations, they might be outside their comfort zone in a degree in economics. I think that's something to be aware of. I guess apart from the intellectual stimulation that I think comes from being an economist, I feel that every single day. I think what's important also for those students thinking of what to do with their lives is that the knowledge and skills acquired through a degree in economics are highly valued by employers. And, this is the one chart I'm going to project, but this is one of my favorites. So a few years ago, the Institute for Fiscal Studies did a really detailed analysis that tried to estimate the returns to education. So how do graduate earnings compare to non-graduates, but obviously controlling for similar characteristics, because people who go to university are sometimes very different to people who don't go. So a direct comparison is problematic. So it's sort of trying to find similar people, but some with a degree and some without a degree, and seeing, well, how much more they earn. And economics comes out in the top two. It's economics and medicine that are the most highly rewarding from a financial point of view. So in terms of like future earnings, if you have a degree in economics, you're going to be one of the more highly paid people in society on average. And I think that attracts people to economics, though I think it might not be the right reason to apply for economics. It's sort of, it is an important factor for many people. I think the uphill struggle we face in economics is when school kids are asked, what does an economist look like? Please draw an economist. This is what they draw. So they think it's an old white man with glasses in a suit, a briefcase. Notice the word bored there. Old, bored, briefcase, money. Right? That is not appealing to a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old, right? Not necessarily. Maybe their parents might think it's appealing, but I don't know if it's that exciting. And it's probably not very appealing to a young woman, perhaps, or perhaps to some ethnic minorities, or people whose background isn't that, their dad doesn't look like this, for example, as well. And it's really not the case, although we do, as Sam pointed out, we are trying to encourage more women into the profession. There are a lot of women in the profession. Silvana Tenrera on the top right is a colleague of mine. I just thought I'd mention her. She's on the Monetary Policy Committee. She's actually stepping down soon. She'll be coming back to teach for us. And another colleague of mine, Swati Dhingra, has joined the MPC only recently. Esther Duflo, recent Nobel laureate. So there are lots of, yes, there's some old white men in suits. I've put Oliver Hart there. I'm not going to lie, but it's really not the case. And the reason it's not the case is because economics is not about banking. Economics is about society and about understanding how the world works. And when you pitch economics as getting to the heart of social issues, I think it's just much more exciting for people in schools. And I think that's what we're trying to achieve. So Thomas Piketty at the bottom right, he's a French professor. He has this very famous book on where he uses historical data to analyze what might be driving the growth in inequality in society. We're facing a richer world and a much more unequal world. People are really worried about that. His ideas are kind of really pertinent. So I think economics is not this, it's more this. What does a typical economics degree look like in any case when you join it? I think the thing that might freak out people is, the first year will have a lot of maths and stats foundation courses in it, foundational kind of modules, and that's to prepare you for the sort of theory part. There'll also be sort of obviously an introductory economics component. So this is sort of very typical structure for most universities. It will vary, right? Obviously it will vary, but it's not dissimilar to what you'll find in almost every place, which is you're going to learn some microeconomics, which is around the economics on a sort of more small scale, which is about agents interacting with each other like consumers, firms. Macroeconomics, which is about how the economy works in the aggregate overall, sort of, its performance in general, things like the growth rate, what determines the interest rate, these sort of big things. And then, of course, econometrics, which most school kids wouldn't know that word, even if they have A-level economics, that doesn't appear. That's really about, this is the part where the data comes in, which is how do we estimate economics relationships using data. And then in third year, that's when it gets really exciting. That's where you start applying what you've learned to really interesting issues. Like, for example, how should we design monetary policy? What should we, for example, give more power to trade unions or not? What effect would that have on wages, on the economy, that kind of thing? And of course, along the way, students often take other courses like accounting, finance, and other things as well, economic history. So, unsurprisingly, with what I've said, A-level maths is your typical requirement. There are some exceptions, like, for example, the University of Sussex has a BA in economics alongside a BSc. They have two parallel programs where you can join without A-level maths. But the reality is that you will probably be a bit disadvantaged without that. It's not impossible, but at some point you're going to have to encounter it along the way. So if you haven't done A-level maths and you join a BA program, it's quite common that the first year will be very maths heavy, trying to get students caught up. So that's kind of where it sits. The great news is that A-level economics is not required. In fact, I'm on the QAA panel for economics, and I just recently learned that only one university in the whole of the UK requires A-level economics as an entry requirement. So that's not important at all. It's more the technical skills. Business studies, some universities look down on it a bit. I'll say the truth on that. They think it's kind of similar ideas, but less rigorous. But if the school doesn't offer economics, business studies is a good substitute in a way. I think another thing that is really important is that economics really combines well with many other disciplines. So economics is taught on its own, but you can combine it with politics, maths, philosophy, geography. And I think this is where maybe students are good at maths, but they like reading and writing essays as well. If you see pupils that you think, yes, they have technical skills, but they also are very good. Also, they can discuss and argue. Then maybe the second, a joint program might cater better to their interests as well. And actually, there are more joint. So LSE has like 10 joint degrees or something like that. So most universities will have a lot more joint degrees than single honors, right? So I think they're missing a trick if they don't consider those. I'm almost done. Sorry, Sam, I don't want to encroach on Tendai's time. The all-important careers destinations, there is no comprehensive list because I think economics is so broad that it prepares you for such a broad range of careers. But looking at the graduates I know from all sorts of universities and the evidence, really, I would say 15% approximately of LSE graduates or more will go into the public sector, and maybe not directly, maybe indirectly, they'll do more studies and end up there. So maybe in government departments, central bank, like Bank of England, or abroad, maybe regulatory bodies like Ofcom or something like that. A lot of think tanks, research institutes. And the reason for that is the sort of the technical skills and the analysis, the comfort working with data. That's really important, right? That gives them a lot of skills that are very broadly valued. Financial sector is a big recruiter, perhaps the biggest. And that's probably why the returns to a degree in economics are high, right? Because students often end up in finance, and I think that's raising the average earnings of the typical graduate. But it would be wrong to say that that's I know lots of students are attracted in because of that, but I think it's too narrow, and I think it's kind of killing some of the entry because people are sort of too focused on the accountancy and the consultancy and the financial side. The one thing I'll say before I close is there's a huge rise in recruitment in the tech industry. That's a new thing. That's happened in the last 5-10 years. And the reason for that is because economics at university is evolving. And I think the biggest innovation in economics education in the last few years has been introducing coding into the curriculum. Big data, the idea that if you have big data, you're going to need to learn how to code, things like Python and stuff like that. That's new to us. I mean, when I went to university, that was just not taught. It just wasn't on the horizon. Now it is. And I think that's making our graduates really attractive to places like Google, Amazon. I shouldn't say Facebook, is it Meta now? Whatever it is, they're hiring our graduates in large numbers. So, it's a much broader field. And of course, a lot of charitable work, it shouldn't be downplayed. So, that's sort of a whirlwind tour of what it's like to study economics at university. I hope it's been useful. I'm happy to take questions now later in the chat whenever.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that insight. Absolutely brilliant. And yeah, just to kind of echo some of the things that were mentioned there, I took a BA economics route without A-level maths, and yes, I had to do a bit of self-studying in the library in that first year to kind of get myself up to scratch. But it was achievable. It was achievable. But yes, as Demetrius says, yeah, the maths definitely does help. And on the tech points, I mentioned that we've got a podcast. One of our podcast episodes actually focused on an economist that used to be one of the chiefs at Spotify. And I'm sure lots of you use Spotify and probably had your Spotify unwrapped last week, telling you all the insights on the music you listen to. It's all data, it's all economics. You maybe didn't realize it, but all that music you're listening to and all the data, that's economics. So there's loads of different things you can do. So yes, so please do kind of share any thoughts and questions. We will be sharing a recording of this. And we'll see if we can share slides. But again, thank you. Demetrius said you can do that. So that's absolutely brilliant. Lovely. So what I'll do now, I'm going to hand over to our next guest, Tendai from the Bank of England. So over to you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Sam, and also thank you, Dimitri. You set up my presentation really nicely. So just give me a moment to share. Right. Okay. Can you see the slides okay?
Yes,
I can't
perfect.
see any. Lovely. Okay, so first of all, I'll introduce myself. My name is Tendai Chipangora, and I work within the Education and Outreach Department at the Bank of England. So what we do is we try to encourage financial education and literacy to the whole of the UK. But then also I'll be speaking about some early careers opportunities at the Bank of England that don't necessarily need you to take the university route. I will be sharing quite a lot of information, so I will be putting it in links in the chat box once I've done. So alluding to kind of what Dimitri was saying, there's lots of desirable skills that kind of really help you in economics careers, and lots of these can be gained through kind of many other disciplines. So of course, being analytical, being able to read data, and present your findings on that is something really desirable when you work in economics, particularly at the Bank of England. A lot of what people do is data driven, so really understanding that is of a benefit. Also critical thinking, again, it is to do with numbers, but it is to do with, say, policy and how that will impact the country. The Bank of England is a central bank. We are accountable to everyone in the UK, so it really is thinking about, okay, what we are doing will impact society. Again, numeracy and maths is good to have in economics, and I think I saw in the chat box as well. That really does help with the academic study. Communications, you'll be working with lots of different people, whether that be lords, MPs, economists, teachers, so kind of learning how to speak to lots of different stakeholders is something really good as well. Problem solving, but then also attention to detail. Again, looking at those statistics, looking at that data, that's something that's really desirable if you work in economics. I'll just give you a quick outline of some of the early career opportunities at the Bank of England. Like I said, I'm happy to share the links, but I've just put the link at the bottom there. So I've kind of drawn out two of the most upcoming career opportunities. So we have an apprenticeship program, but we've also got a degree apprenticeship program as well. And it's a really good route if university, the traditional university route, isn't necessarily what your students want. So our level 4 apprenticeship, again, it's 18 months and it really helps them kind of gain an insight into the workings of a central bank, and you've got an opportunity for working in a number of key roles. We offer both the degree apprenticeship and a level 4 apprenticeship, you can specialise in, say, professional accounting, business solutions and data analysis. And again, data is something that is really growing within the bank. A great thing about an apprenticeship is you get a salary, because I know sometimes that can limit the people that actually want to get into it. So our level 4 apprenticeship is £21,000 starting salary. And as you can see, the closing date is in about a month's time. So if that's something that maybe some of your students would be interested in, again, it would be good if you could share the link with them. Just to add, we are the Bank of England, but really we're the Bank of the UK. So the Bank of England's having a big drive to make sure that we kind of get the minds and opinions of people that are spread across the whole of the UK. We have agencies in Belfast, Leeds, Cardiff, because we do represent the people, and we do want to have the people from around the UK working at the bank. So living in Leeds wouldn't be an issue to join one of these apprenticeship programs. The degree apprenticeship, as you can see, it's 3 years, and again, slightly bigger salary. And again, it's around similar time that you would have to get your applications in. You do get time off for the academic study part. You would have a mentor within the bank, and again, you'd really get that hands-on experience, not just in, say, markets and analysis. You might go to communications as well. So there's lots of different places that people would be able to get their experience in. Again, this is Dimitra's talked about this as well, but there are so many benefits of a career in economics. Of course, it's one of the better paid jobs to go into, but also kind of like the quality of like what you can experience. There's lots of opportunities to travel the country as well as the globe. And again, you can be involved in policy decisions, things that can impact the country, the world. Again, you can have experience in lots of different organizations. So we heard about Google, Spotify, the Bank of England, charities. If you work in economics, you've got an opportunity to work in all of those organisations. And I think the fact that it's multidisciplinary, for me, is a really key draw to economics. It combines history, politics, psychology, sociology, maths. You really can draw on many of your interests if you are working within economics. And I suppose kind of moving on to something else that the Bank of England can offer as well, is that economics really is everywhere. It's found in kind of every corner of the curriculum. It's found in the history curriculum. I'm a ex-history teacher, explaining hyperinflation to the students. Again, it was really interesting to explain to them the economics of that. Of course, mathematics, critical thinking, statistics. If you study geography, you can look at the development of countries, causes, solutions of poverty, but then also kind of wider subjects. If you look at PHSE and also citizenship, you can really look at personal finance. And that is something that the Bank of England can offer your schools. So I think hopefully you'll be able to see me holding the book up. But every state secondary school earlier in the year was sent our first book that the bank has published. It's called Can't We Just Print More Money? It's written by two of our economists, Rupal Patel and Jack Meaning. And it answers kind of economics questions that a lot of us have asked. Again, why aren't Freddo's 10p anymore? I've definitely spoken about that with my friends. Why are so many clothes made in Asia? And again, what is money? Why does money exist? So there's all different chapters in there that again answer those economics questions. But what we've also done is come up with a scheme of work to go with it, because financial education, yes, it's important for your career choices, but it's also important for your life choices as well. So in order to increase the breadth of people that get to have this financial education, we've come up with a English resource to go with the book. So it consists of 6 lessons, and it does support all the major exam boards for GCSE English language. It teaches students how to structure a debate, write a narrative, lots of different skills that they need. So every state secondary school should have been sent one of these. They were sent to the head teacher, and also, again, I'm not sure if you can see me holding it up, but you will also have been sent a teacher's guide as well. This will also be available on our website. Again, I'm happy to share that around in the chat box. But what Sam was talking about earlier, today, a podcast has launched that our authors, RuPaul and Jack, are talking about their book as well. So that might be something really interesting to listen to. Again, I'm happy to share that link also. So this resource focus on English, but we've got other resources, again, that can be used across the whole curriculum. So in terms of secondary education, we've got a resource called Economy. Again, free on our website, easily accessible for kind of all educators. It's there to help young people understand the economy better. Again, where is my place within the economy? And as you can see in the graphic, we try to use visuals to really help explain it to the students. We did make it in consultation with the PHSE Association and also Young Money. It's a series of 4 lessons, and it really is about decision making. How do my decisions kind of impact my future? How might they impact other people as well? So again, really easily accessible on our website. And again, it's something that, again, will help them with their career choices, but also help them with their life choices also. We've also got explainers to explain kind of key economic concepts: inflation, interest rates, pardon me, and GDP. That was all I wanted to cover today. But again, if you've got any questions, I'm happy for you to email me. So it's just my name at thebankofengland.co.uk. But in a moment, I will start sharing some of the links in the chat box to all our resources. So let me just stop sharing. So any questions?
Brilliant. That was fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing that insight. So hopefully you get a bit of a better understanding as to, you know, what your young people could be doing as economists at the bank. And I love the fact that we've touched on, and I'm going to mention it a little bit more, that there are other routes into economics. So you may just think it's university. Well, yes, you can get a degree via an apprenticeship as well. So it's great that there's different routes for young people with different kind of skill sets. And as mentioned, you know, the book, an unbelievable book. It's a great read for all ages, to be honest. So don't just think of it just for young people in the class in front of you. It's great, accessible for all ages. The resources, I know a couple of people were mentioning maybe they're at schools that are outside the UK. You know, Tendai's sharing links, but things can be downloaded from the website. But if you are in a UK state school and you've not seen the book yet, it's somewhere in your school. Get to your library, make sure you find it, and find those resources. And I love that it's linked to the English curriculum, because as mentioned, not all of you have schools where there is an economics department. You most definitely have an English department. So the fact that we can embed economics within the English curriculum is absolutely super. And a couple more questions coming in there. So yeah, actually, Satanda, what we're questioned there about the apprenticeships. So I presume, are they mostly based at Threadneedle Street in London, or are there some maybe elsewhere? Nope, you're still on mute, sir.
Yes, I knew that was going to happen. So again, we are based mainly on Threadneedle Street in London, but we also have agencies around the country. So say you do have someone who, if you might be a school in Newcastle, for example, we've got agencies up there, we've got agencies in Leeds, we've got agencies in Belfast, Cardiff. So there would be, as we all know, there would be a lot of things going on virtually, but you would the students would have a mentor within their agency. So again, there would be some traveling down to London for some of it, but again, we're so keen not to be seen as like the Bank of London. You know, it is the Bank of the UK. So we are really, again, we are really working to make sure that what we can offer really is available to everyone, because that's how you get the most diverse set of views in our organisation.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. And yes, the bank are doing loads of outreach across the home nations. And I know whilst that presentation was going on, Dimitri has been some brilliant answers on the chat box for the teachers and careers leaders. So much appreciated on that front. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to do a little screen share myself again, and I'm just going to go a little bit deeper on some of the apprenticeships and on the government economics service. So if I just bring my screen up now so I can do that. Super. So hopefully everyone can see that. So some of you may be familiar, some maybe not, but the Government Economics Service is the body for economists across all UK civil service. So think of all the public sector departments. They've all got economists working in them, but the GES brings them all together as one group. And in the last few years, the GES, together with University of Kent, has developed a degree apprenticeship program. So, you know, as mentioned, you know, there are apprenticeship routes into the subject and into the sector. And, you know, the way this particular one works, it's a 4-year scheme. You complete your studies with University of Kent, so you still come out with a degree in economics. And also at the end, as long as you get a 2-1 or above, you're going to walk into a permanent position within the GES, earning a minimum of £27,000. Now, here's a little bit more on that. So what will you learn and how does it work? So, you know, apprenticeships, I know lots of you will be familiar with them now, and some of them, it's maybe the savvy way because it's fully funded, but how does the week look? What does it look for that young person that goes into the apprenticeship? So if we think of a normal week, they're going to have about 4 days of the week actually working. So for the GES scheme, in a public sector department, and working, using those quantitative skills, writing and doing presentations, and really applying their economic skills and informing decisions that might vary from things on the environment or public transport. And then they're going to be spending 1 day a week actually studying. So the same kind of content that Dimitri was mentioning there. So they're still studying microeconomics, macroeconomics, econometrics, but the rest of the week they're actually getting to apply these skills and this theory into the real world. So a really exciting blend. Entry requirements. So at GCSE level, the GES look that students have a level 6 at maths and a level 4 at English language. And in terms of UCAS points, when they're at A level, it's looking at 96 UCAS points. And you can see the eligibility requirements below. So here are some tips from people that are current apprentices at the GES, working across a variety of departments. But, you know, I won't read these all out. I'll let you read them. But for me, I think the things I take away are, you know, be yourself, you know, show that you've got a personality in the application stages. Practice. There are some tests, and I'll show you the timeline in a second, but you can practice. But it's also really important, and this rule works for whether you're applying through UCAS normally for university or applying for employment, you know, do a bit of research on the civil service. What are their values? What are the details of the degree? How can you make sure that you stand out in that application process and that you are a good match for this role? And at the same time, checking if it is something you want to do. I think a lot of the time in application processes at a young age and even in adulthood, we always want to be wanted, but make sure that you want to work there. The beauty of the GES are that there's lots of public sector departments with locations across the UK. So I'm sure you will find a good fit for you. Here is the timeline though. So here's the important dates. And just like Tendai said, some of these dates are imminent. So make sure you go back to your students and you give the updates and they act upon it. Applications for the GES scheme open on the 19th of December. And then there is on the 14th of February, that's the deadline for when online tests and a personal statement have to be submitted. There are assessment stages, assessment centre stages, and there's lots of tips online for these. There's 2 parts to the assessment centre. And if you are successful, you then get matched to a government department in May, and your apprenticeship would begin in September. So a really exciting process, but along the way, you've obviously got to make sure that the students are still performing and getting the grades they need to make sure they meet the requirements. But here are some links, and I really do advise that you share these with your students so they can download the candidate pack, look at the details as to when to apply, but again, follow them on social media so you can get more insights from current apprentices. They actually had a virtual event just yesterday, so do get those insights from the apprentices and get in touch with them if you have any queries. There's an email listed just there below. So loads of opportunities and across the whole of the home nations for your young people. So we can now see that, maybe you're learning a little bit more about economics, but the variety of pathways into economics, apprenticeship, bachelor's level, and as Dimitra's been touching on, the progression into master's level as well. So I'm just going to catch up on the chat so I can see lots of great links being shared there. People asking about the book and how they get it. So yes, if you check those links, you can download the resources if you've not got them. And sounding very BBC, but the book is available in all good bookstores. What I would like to do now, though, I would like to bring Daniel into the conversation. So we've seen a few different insights, but it's always important, I think, to get a young person's perspective and actually see, well, this is what we all think, but I'm sat here with a grey beard. Maybe we need a younger person's perspective. So yeah, Daniel, if you could just introduce yourself, maybe say what year group you're in and what you're currently studying.
Okay, sure. Thank you for that, Sam. And thank you to Tendai and Dimitra for that about economics, because obviously someone applying to economics and wanting to go into the field of economics, it's interesting to learn more about it. So a brief intro into me. I'm a year 13 student, my last year of education. Quite sad, to be honest, because I've gone through 13 years and it's my last year. And so it's my last ever Christmas jumper day. So I was like, I have to come with the Santa hat, the tinsel, everything. But yeah, I'm year 13. I'm doing 4 A levels, maths, chemistry, economics, and further maths. I've already sat my A level maths and got an A star in that. And I've applied for economics to study degree economics in 2023 September. I'm also going to apply for a degree apprenticeship. So that was nice talk, Sam. But I haven't applied for them yet. I'm still going through the process of that. So I think that's an okay introduction for me.
That's far better than an okay introduction. Absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I suppose what I would like our audience to learn a little bit from you, Daniel, is, so we're applying for these things. Of course, we're making sure that we're getting top grades in those subjects. How are you making sure that you stand out in the applications? What are you doing that makes you the top candidate? Is there anything outside of the classroom that the careers advisors here could be letting their young people know about?
Yeah, I think one thing that universities and applications should like is competitions, and there's like many out there. So I think, Sam, you already know I entered into the Future Leaders competition a few months ago, and now I'm a finalist for that, and that's for Ivy House, which is quite a big thing. Ivy House is becoming bigger and bigger in the UK. There's also a lot of finance competitions. So there's the Bank of England one. So I think Tendai probably, I can't really talk on that, but I think Tendai could. I missed the application deadline last year, so I'm quite annoyed about that. But there's one on artificial intelligence this year, so I think I might be applying for that. And I think if you win, you get paid summer internship into about data technology and innovation. There's also there's a lot of economics essays competitions, but I'm not the best at essays, so I don't really do them. But I think there's one, the Royal Economic Society one, that was a good one this year, the Young Economist of the Year. And then there's also essay competition. So I think it's more just about trying to research what there is. If you go into Google and type in like super curricular activities for economics, business, finance, and then see if you can find stuff like that. But I think one thing I wish there was is if it was all in one big document. I think you have to like search so many places to find this all, and I think it would be better if there's like one big document like containing all the information you needed. Hopefully, who knows, someone in the future could do that, but for now there's not really that, I don't think.
Brilliant, Daniel. Yes, there's loads of different activities, and I know Dimitra mentioned the LSE one, and then you touched on it there.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Dimitra.
So Discover Economics, so people that aren't maybe subscribed to our newsletter, I would say, subscribe now, because we're trying to bring all those different activities together. So great content for you as a school staff member, but also for your young people, a bi-weekly newsletter where we'll share more of those activities. But some of you might be sat there right now and actually looking at Daniel and thinking, maybe he looks a little bit familiar, actually. Have I seen him somewhere before? So what else do you do, Daniel, though? Because you do your studies, you do all these extracurricular things, but are you a bit of a social media influencer?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, I guess I could talk a little bit about that. I've actually done a talk on this before for a charity event, but I think I have a social media channel on TikTok called Dan Sunday. It's just basically finance, business, economics, current affairs, just that all in one. And I just make like 30 seconds to a minute videos. I haven't uploaded for a while, but I will start get back to that. So should I go brief intro about how I started and everything?
Go for it, Dan. Yeah.
So I think it all started with the lockdown, 2020 lockdown. I was so bored at home. Like I was just scrolling away on TikTok like this, just like 2 hours every single day. It was such a waste of time. And I was seeing there was kind of a niche opening up, and like the education niche opening up. And still back in 20, more of like a kids app or dance app, or like, I don't know how to say it, but something like that. And saw people were providing educational content, and I was like, why can't I start? Like, I do like business, I like economics. I had just read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was like, oh, cool, business is quite cool. Why shouldn't I just start making videos about it? So I started, and I was making videos about kind of how to make money in just businesses and just like news and economics in the news. And then I think I grew quite quick, or it took me a while, and then I started changing my style of content into more financial literacy and financial education. So very simple topics like explaining what income tax is and how it's marginal, not flat, explaining national insurance, mortgages, like just savings, everything like APR, all that, and putting them into like 30-second videos, and then sort of doing role play videos. So I would kind of be like speaking to someone, and then the person I asked the question to would be answering back this side, and it would just be like back and forth. And I think reason why these videos did well is because it was engaging, because it was a question being asked, and then someone else, same person obviously, but in like a different outfit, would be answering the question. And so like it was quickly changing like every 5 seconds. So I did that, and then I think, yeah, I've just been doing that kind of, and now fast forward to 2022, I'm at 120,000 followers, I think. So I've actually, not just that, I think, I started a new TikTok channel because I find like economics I love the subject, but like sometimes I find it focused to just sit down and like look at a textbook and read a textbook. And I was like, why not? I should try like teach people about economics, but like economics concepts in A-level videos. And so I've started teaching A-level economics kind of just in short form videos and trying to explain more of the economics and news, but link it to A-level concepts and theories. And I've uploaded like I think 10 videos on TikTok now. And I was surprised, like I've already got like 7 or so thousand followers. So yeah, that is quite cool, to be honest.
It's more than quite cool. It's amazing, Daniel. It's unbelievable. And I think, you know, for people like me that maybe when TikTok's mentioned and I just get a little bit scared, think, oh, it's not for me. Well, actually, you know, for careers advisors, school staff members on here, there is great content for your young people to access. Like Daniel mentioned, simple explainers. We know there's lots happening in the world right now. Do we all understand it? Little explainers saying, you know, why has the interest rate changed? What can we do about the cost of living crisis, or maybe climate change? Brilliant explainers that are very accessible for your young people. So I think it's important that we take away from today that the learning doesn't just happen in the classroom. There's so much more outside. And I suppose one last line from you, Daniel. Your hopes for the future. What are your hopes?
So obviously economics at university, I'm hoping, but if I do get some degree apprenticeships, which I know are quite competitive, I might go for that. I do want to travel the world. And I think one thing about studying economics and I can travel the world is kind of being able to see how economics is in different countries. Because one of the main things about economics is how interesting it is, that the foundations of our civilization and how the world works. But I'm just kind of stuck to UK economics. Obviously I've been to India and I've been able to see the poverty and everything there, but I want to try and see different places in the world, not just UK and America, not just these big countries where most of the economy is good. Obviously there's still right now everything is kind of going down, but I think it would be nice to try and see different sides of the world and how we can use policies and what we can do to try and improve like inequality or tackling the gender pay gap in certain places in like such as India, Brazil, maybe China, etc., etc. And so I think traveling would be definitely something I would be interested in. Maybe after I've studied economics as a degree, I can maybe like go to places to travel and collect data and then see what I could do with that to try and form policies. I'm not really sure. I'm quite entrepreneurial, I guess I could say. So I do want to start my own company. I'm not sure if I'll do that like during university or after university. I'm not really sure. And I also want to do public speaking quite a lot. I'm trying to improve my public speaking. So like take opportunities like this and events to speak to other people. And hopefully at least one person can get some advice and it's helped them. So yeah.
Absolutely brilliant, Daniel. I'm just sat here with a massive smile because, yeah, absolutely super. And like you say, Daniel, you know, and it's been touched on here, economics really can open doors to amazing travel opportunities, but also to create that positive change. So, yeah. Daniel, thank you so much for joining. I know some people are asking for TikTok links and stuff, so feel free to put those links in the chat box.
Okay, thank you.
So thanks so much. Otherwise, we're getting towards the end. An hour has flown by. Thank you so much for joining us today. We would love to keep the conversation going, so subscribe to our newsletter. We'll be sharing the recording of this, so don't panic if you miss anything. And I know that the Bank of England LSE are keen to do even more with you in the future. So this is only the beginning of the outreach. What I will do now, though, I will just bring up a final poll, and I'd love for you just to pop your answers in there. You know, have you learned something new? Do you feel a little bit more confident? And you know, how you would actually rate this event. But otherwise, a huge thank you to our guests for joining us today. Dimitra, Tendai, and Daniel giving super insights and really valuable insights to us all, and hopefully lots of takeaways for you to take back to your schools and classrooms and really help more young people and more diverse young people access, you know, what hopefully you see now is so much more than those pictures that Dimitris showed at the start. It's not just that boring white, pale, stale male at the start focused on finance. There's loads more to economics. So thank you very much for joining us. Brilliant, everyone getting involved in the poll there. When you leave, there will be an opportunity for you to put in your email address if you do want to sign up for our newsletter. And yeah, thank you very much for taking part. We will end the poll there, share the results, and then yes, take care everyone. And we look forward to seeing you again sometime soon.